Welcome, deep divers. Today, we're plunging into one of humanity's most, profound and personal questions. Morality.
Yeah, what really drives our sense of right and wrong?
Exactly. Is it cool calculating logic, or is it more of a gut feeling, a surge of emotion? We're taking a deep dive into Chapter 13 of Robert M. Sapolsky's incredible book, Behave, The Biology of Humans at Our Best and Worst.
The chapter called Morality and Doing the Right Thing, once you figured out what that is. Quite a title.
It really is. And our mission today is to unpack the science behind our moral compass. We're talking brain chemistry, culture, even what babies and animals can tell us.
It covers a lot of ground.
It does. So if you've ever had that unshakable feeling that something is just wrong, even if you couldn't quite explain why, or maybe wondered how your surroundings shape your ethics, well, this deep dive is definitely for you. Okay, let's get into it.
To do it.
So, for centuries, philosophers have wrestled with this, right? Is morality mostly reason or mostly emotion? Sapolsky starts off making the case for reason.
The logical foundation.
Yeah, think about law books. They're huge. All these intricate rules, reconstructing scenarios, figuring out cause and effect, intent versus outcome.
It's complex mental work.
Totally. He even points out how kids develop moral reasoning, like Kohlberg's stages, and how it kind of mirrors Piaget's stages of just general logical thinking.
Right, suggesting a link there. And what's really insightful is how specific brain areas get involved.
Ah, the neuroscience bit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When we're doing that heavy logical lifting, especially for a tough ethical call, the dlPFC, that's the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, our sort of cognitive control center, it just lights right up.
Okay.
We even see this in conditions like OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder.
Yeah.
People with OCD can show hyperactive dlPFCs when they're stuck on decisions, both everyday ones and moral ones. It shows that region's role in, really careful analysis.
Overdrive, almost.
Kinda, yeah. And then there's another key player, the TPJ, the temporoparietal junction.
TPJ. Okay, what does that do?
That's really active during theory of mind tasks. Basically, understanding what other people are thinking, their intentions.
Ah, putting yourself in their shoes.
Pretty much. And here's the kicker. The more active your TPJ, the more weight you give to someone's intent when you judge their actions morally, even if they intended harm but didn't actually cause any.
So intent really matters to the TPJ.
Hugely. And if you inhibit the TPJ experimentally, people suddenly care a lot about intent in their judgments. It shows how crucial it is for figuring out the why behind what someone did.
Okay, so our logical brain, the dlPFC and TPJ, they're working hard. But are we perfectly rational? Does Sapolsky point out any, quirks, fault lines?
Oh, definitely. Our reasoning isn't perfect. It has biases, but the commission-omission bias.
Exhibition-omission, meaning?
We tend to judge doing harm as much worse than allowing harm, even if the outcome is exactly the same.
Like actively pushing someone versus just not stopping them from falling?
Exactly. Actively doing something feels different. Maybe because when you act, you're choosing that one action out of, tons of possible inactions. It stands out more.
Okay, that makes sense. So despite these quirks, you have philosophers like Kant, Peter Singer. They argue morality should be all about reason. Emotion just clouds things, soils the carpet, as they say.
Right, keep emotion out of it.
But here's where Sapolsky really flips the script, doesn't he? What if that's backward? What if reason is actually just playing catch-up?
And this is where social intuitionism comes in, championed by Jonathan Haidt.
Haidt, right.
Yeah. Haidt argues that most of the time, our moral decisions pop up from intuition, from emotion first, and the reasoning. That often comes later, just to justify the gut feeling we already had.
So reason is like our internal press secretary.
That's a great way to put it. Haidt says moral thinking is for social doing. It's about convincing ourselves and others. And when we face a moral choice, it's not just the logical dlPFC working. You see this whole emotional cast lighting up.
Which hearts?
The amygdala for fear, strong emotions.
Right.
The vmPFC, that's the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, integrating gut feelings. The insula, tied to visceral stuff like disgust. The anterior cingulate for conflict. These areas often fire up before the dlPFC.
Wow, so the feeling comes first.
Often, yeah. And that pattern of emotional activation predicts the moral decision better than the logical activity does. It helps explain that moral dumbfounding thing.
Right, where you know something's wrong but can't explain why.
Exactly.
Right.
And you fumble for reasons. It also explains why weird things, like a bad smell or a messy desk, can make people slightly more morally conservative. It's tapping into that intuitive disgust response.
Sapolsky's joke about the judge.
Yeah, knowing if they're hungry is more predictive than knowing their views on Plato. Emotion isn't just noise. It anchors core judgments, like protecting your family. That's deep-seated stuff.
And the brain damage cases reinforce this, right? People with vmPFC damage.
Oh, absolutely. Remember from Chapter 10, they make these incredibly cold-hearted decisions, like being totally okay with sacrificing a relative to save 5 strangers, something most people find horrifying.
It really shows how much emotion steers the ship.
It really does.
So, if morality is this mix of logic and emotion, where did it start? Is it just a human cultural thing, or does it go deeper? Sapolsky looks at babies and animals here.
Yeah, for clues about the origins, and even tiny babies show these biases. Remember the commission-omission bias?
Uh-huh.
6-month-olds react more strongly if someone who always picks blue suddenly picks red, that's commission in action,
Yeah.
than if someone just stops picking blue, omission. Even that young, the active choice registers more.
Fascinating. And they prefer good guys over bad guys.
Pretty much. Infants and toddlers show preferences for shapes or puppets that help others over ones that hinder. They even seem to want the bad puppets punished and the good ones rewarded.
A basic sense of justice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even wanting puppets who punish the mean puppets secondary punishment. It suggests these fundamentals are there really early.
And it's not just us humans?
Nope. Other primates show hints of this too. The famous capuchin monkey study.
The grapes and cucumbers.
That's the one. You give one monkey a grape for a pebble, the other a cucumber. The cucumber monkey gets mad, throws it back, refuses to play. Unequal pay.
They know when they're getting ripped off.
They definitely do. And we see similar reactions in macaques, crows, ravens, even dogs. A basic sense of fairness, or at least unfairness, directed at oneself.
But you pointed out it's often self-interest, right? I'm getting screwed.
Yeah.
Not quite abstract justice.
That's a key point. For chimps playing the ultimatum game, they only shared fairly if being unfair meant their partner could veto the whole reward. It was strategic.
Makes sense.
However, some primates, like capuchins and marmosets, do show what's called other regarding preference. They'll make a choice that gives another monkey a treat, even if they get nothing themselves, as long as it costs them nothing.
A little bit of altruism, maybe?
Or at least not being bothered by others getting something nice. But then there was that really compelling finding.
What was that?
When a capuchin was getting grapes, and his partner started getting cucumbers instead, sometimes the grape-getting monkey also refused to work.
Wow. Solidarity. Or maybe avoiding future problems.
It's hard to say for sure.
Yeah.
But Sapolsky argues these findings really bolster that social intuitionist idea. The roots of morality seem ancient, biological, maybe even cross-species. It's not just high-level human culture.
Okay, so we have this internal tug-of-war, logic versus intuition, with deep roots. How does this actually play out in those really tough life-or-death scenarios? The trolley problem comes to mind.
Right, Josh Green's neuroethics work, putting people in scanners while they face these dilemmas.
The classic setup. Pull a lever, trolley switches tracks, saves 5 people, but kills 1 person on the other track.
In that one, the dlPFC, the reasoning part, is buzzing. And about 70% of people say, yeah, pull a lever, utilitarian choice, saves the most lives.
Calculation.
Pretty much. But then there's the other version,
The push scenario.
where you have to physically push a large person onto the track to stop the trolley and save the 5.
Ugh, just saying it feels different.
Exactly. And the brain shows it. The vmPFC and amygdala emotional centers light up intensely, and only about 30% of people say they'd push.
That direct personal action.
It changes everything. The emotional intuition screams no, even if the numbers are the same.
So a small change in how the harm happens flips the brain's response in the decision.
Totally. Green highlights intentionality. In the lever case, the death is a side effect. In the push case, you're using the person as a means to an end. That feels intuitively wrong.
Even the loop scenario feels less bad than pushing.
Right, where the diverted trolley loops back and the one person stops it,
Yeah.
still feels less direct than the push. Green's point is our moral intuitions are often very local, very sensitive to immediate factors like direct action, physical closeness, and clear intent, and they discount things that are further away in space or time.
Which brings us straight to context, doesn't it? These dilemmas show just how much the situation shapes our moral choices.
Hugely context-dependent. Think about Peter Singer's pond example.
To drowning child?
Yeah, you see a child drowning right in front of you, you'd jump in, even if it ruins your expensive suit, right?
Of course.
But would you send that same amount of money, say $500, to save a child starving far away in Somalia? Most people hesitate or don't. That person right there, in the flesh, triggers a powerful us response that distant suffering often doesn't. Proximity matters.
And language. Framing. We saw that back in Chapter 3.
Absolutely. Call a game the Wall Street game, and people play more competitively than if you call it the community game
Same game, different name, different ethics.
or framing a drug. 5% mortality rate sounds way worse than 95% survival rate, even though
Yeah.
it's the same statistic. Words shape the moral landscape.
What about identity? You mentioned bankers.
Right, that 2014 study. When bankers were subtly reminded of their professional identity, they actually cheated more on a task than when they weren't.
Seriously.
Yeah, it suggests that they might operate with almost two different ethical rule books, one for work, one for the rest of life. Context activates different frameworks.
And we're definitely easier on ourselves than on others, aren't we?
Oh, for sure. When we think about our own mistakes, our vmPFC activates shame, guilt, internal feelings.
Okay.
But when we judge other people's screw-ups, it's more the insula and dlPFC, anger, indignation. We judge ourselves by our intentions, our internal state, because we know it. We judge everyone else by their actions, what we can see.
Because me is the ultimate us.
Exactly. We know our own mitigating circumstances. Dan O'Reilly put it well. Cheating isn't limited by risk, but by our ability to rationalize it to ourselves.
That's a sobering thought. Okay, so context massively shifts things for individuals. What about whole cultures? Do we see big differences there, or are there moral universals?
There's a bit of both. You find universals like condemning murder, theft, usually some form of the golden rule. But the variations are often more revealing.
Like Haidt's moral foundation.
Yeah, things like harm, fairness, loyalty, authority, purity. Haidt argues these foundations are universal, but cultures place vastly different emphasis on them.
So everyone cares about fairness, but what counts as fair might differ.
Precisely. And sometimes the differences are really surprising, like that public good game Sapolsky mentions. In most places, people punish those who don't contribute their fair share. But in a few cultures, like parts of Oman and Greece, they found antisocial punishment.
Meaning,
They punish people who were too generous.
why would you punish generosity?
The researchers linked it to societies with lower social trust. The thinking might be if you're overly generous, you're making everyone else look bad, or maybe you're trying to gain status in a way that disrupts things. You're upping the ante uncomfortably.
Wow, that is wild. It shows how deep cultural norms can run.
Definitely. And cultures also differ in how they enforce morality. Ruth Benedict talked about shame versus guilt cultures.
Right, shame being external, guilt internal.
It's exactly. Shame cultures, often more collectivist like in East Asia, focus on external judgment, honor, what others think, you can't live with us. Guilt cultures, more individualistic like the West, focus on internal conscience. How can I live with myself?
And we used to think shame was somehow primitive.
Yeah, but writers like Jennifer Jakea argue shame still has a role, especially for holding powerful people or corporations accountable when internal guilt doesn't seem to work. Think about public shaming campaigns.
A modern tool with ancient roots. Okay, finally, let's talk about lying. Super common, right?
Incredibly common and incredibly context-dependent. Ranges from perjury in court to, does this make me look fat?
A wide spectrum.
Humans are good at it, complex facial muscles, language, and we're great at finessing the truth.
Finessing.
Like in that die-rolling study, people could cheat for money. But they didn't just make up the highest possible number usually. Instead, they'd maybe report the higher of two mental roles, something they could rationalize as, well, less dishonest.
Finding loopholes in our own conscience.
Pretty much. And the brain reflects this complexity. The dlPFC is key again.
The logic center.
It's involved both in resisting the urge to lie, AND, if you decide to lie, in doing it effectively.
So it's like, don't do it, but if you do it well.
That's basically it.
Right.
But here's where it gets really interesting with the cheaters versus non-cheaters.
Okay.
When the habitual cheaters in a study were actively cheating, yes, their dlPFC was working. But crucially, their ACC, the conflict detector, was quiet. No struggle. They just cheated.
Smooth operators.
But when those same cheaters resisted the urge to cheat on a given trial, their dlPFC worked harder, the ACC lit up like crazy, and they took longer to respond. For them, resisting temptation was the real neurobiological effort.
Wow, so being honest was hard work for them.
It looked that way. But then, what about the people who never cheated?
The truly honest ones.
Yes. For them, when the chance to cheat came up, their dlPFC, their ACC, those areas were practically silent, in veritable comas, as Sapolsky puts it.
No conflict, no struggle.
None. No effort to do the right thing. It was just automatic, an act of grace. They simply don't cheat. It's like heroism. The hero running into the fire isn't weighing pros and cons. They just act.
Doing the right thing is the default, the easy path for them.
Exactly. It's like a moral reflex, hammered in so deeply it's just part of who they are. That's virtue ethics, not as some abstract ideal, but as an automatic, ingrained reality for some people.
That's actually really profound. Grace, not willpower.
It's a powerful idea to end on.
And that wraps up our deep dive into the fascinating, complex world of human morality through the lens of Sapolsky's Behave. What a journey.
It really is. So much going on beneath the surface of right and wrong.
Yeah, we've seen our moral compass isn't simple. It's this intricate interplay, isn't it? Ancient gut feelings, modern reasoning, all shaped by context, culture, even how we fool ourselves.
The real dance between the emotional limbic system and the calculating frontal cortex.
And constantly influenced by me versus us, or us versus them. But maybe that final point is the most striking, that for some, doing good isn't a fight, it's just grace. Effortless, part of their identity.
Makes you think.
It really does. So, for you listening, think about the moral issues you feel strongly about. Where does that conviction come from? Pure reason. Or maybe those deeper intuitions shaped by life, culture, even our evolutionary past.
And knowing this, how might it change how you approach disagreements with others? Recognizing their moral foundation might be built differently.
Definitely food for thought. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it's given you plenty to mull over.
Hope so too.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep deep diving.